but you don't. Not until I tell you. Plenty of people in the world say, it's all been said before. There's never anything new that's never been said. I do it all the fucking time. That's got nothing to do with this. Oswald's Beer Ranch in the UP of Michigan. Catches me every time. It's a bear ranch. They've got bears that have been hit on the side of the road, and cubs that have been lost from their parents because somebody killed the parents, and then I didn't know any of that until I went. I thought it said Oswald's Beer Ranch. Turns out there are a bunch of fucking bears running everywhere. If I wanted to see a bear, I'd sleep in the woods on Kodiak Island. Point is, I'm only here right now because it's getting late in Norway. It's 5 after 12 in Norway right now, I believe, in Bergen. It's 6:05 Pacific time, Eastern Daylight Time, Eastern Standard Time, however you want to put it. And I bring that up because I wanted a reason to avoid speaking of that poor guy's son, Baron Damien Trump. Demon just got his wings. That little Damien Thorn, Kim Jong-un character, son of ill. He's sick. We know that poor guy's not going to show up at his fucking graduation. He might. It'd be a shock, and it wouldn't make anybody he loves happy because they all fucking hate him. But he supposedly planned to do some sort of rally in Minnesota tonight. So, yeah, go to Fargo. Do they have the wood chipper set up in the parking lot? He's not going to Fargo, I don't think. The thing is, I was like, I got to talk about something outside of this whole stupid graduation. It's not my fault I keep laughing and giggling and seeing the things that people say about that poor guy. It's just that it's all over the place, and I can't help it. I'm not advising you. You are just seeing how much I'm laughing. And if that's advice, well, good. There's no better piece of advice than that. Look at it. Try to figure out what I find so funny about it. And you might be doing better when you wake up in the morning. Maybe dream of your dead dad, and he'll tell you you've had enough and you can move on. So yesterday, having a comment from Jorn finding out that today is Constitution Day. It might have been Wednesday. He said this yesterday. I looked up a 12-minute video on the history of Norway. And so he says today is Constitution Day in Norway. And I spoke to Metal Ghost and talked to him about it. Told him Jorn is our friend, because there was something once said that he thought he was supposed to attack him. I'm like, no. And it wasn't really an attack. It's just, you got to be able to say what you're thinking when you see something happen. It's not advice. It's just an observation. And he looked it up and sent him some comment back on there today. I saw it. And it was very nice. He even spoke Norwegian to him. The only Norwegian I know is Harderlister Knudel, which I'd learned from a guy, a ranger friend of mine, when I was at Fort Benning. He said, Harderlister Knudel, he was Norwegian. I'm like, what the fuck? He says, that's a polite way of asking a woman to fuck. And if they're okay with it, they'll do it. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So I found Norway always to be a very interesting place. Yet I've never been there. And I get to know Jorn through this, from Sula Jorn videos. I'll put some of his stuff down there. You see, I told Victoria once when I started doing this stuff, it was all pretty short. It was all just blah, blah, blah. I said, you could put this shit in a fucking cell with someone and brainwash them with it. Just keep playing it and playing it and playing it. But Jorn does things that are about a minute. There's the one thing I said once, I said, feels like that, you know, YouTube should have some, this is a $30,000 idea. YouTube should have something on here that says feels like, and if it's a 5-minute video, you can say it feels like 30 minutes or it feels like 30 seconds, you know, type of thing. How long does it feel like you're looking at this? If it's 30 seconds, it means it was highly entertaining and you can move on. But this whole 30 minutes thing, Jorn does things with Putin and that poor guy. He puts things in that Kim Jong-un. He puts, and for some reason, Gordon Ramsay, that cook guy, he uses him too. I don't know what it is that went on with Gordon Ramsay. I probably should have looked it up. But he puts these things in, and it's a minute video, and it's just like, and I watch it, and this is no offense. Sometimes it feels like I'm watching it for 10 minutes, and I look, I'm like, it's a minute video, and I've got 30 seconds left. That's the brainwashing stuff. Jorn's got it going on. So he mentioned today, May 17th, 2024, it's a Friday. We've got Constitution Day in Norway. And so yesterday, knowing that I wasn't going to hear anything about that poor guy seeing Damien, Baron Damien, whatever the fuck his name is, at a graduation, I knew that it would be better. Even though, let's put it this way. This is the truth. It just occurs to me. I get going. Sometimes I don't even know where I'm at. But if you ask me, I can tell you. I decided, after hearing from Jorn, that I wanted to talk about Norway's history. 12 minutes. A video. This is Norway. And Bergen was the capital. And it's about independence. Am I back far enough yet? Oil was discovered in the 60s, so they were doing pretty well. And it talks about breathtaking landscapes, Scandinavia. I've just got bullet points. There's no way I was going to be able to do this whole thing. If you can't figure out what I'm talking about through this, well, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't have been paying attention anyway. The fireworks were going off. It was beautiful. Northern edge of the European continent. They talk about the Vikings. They talk about uninhabitable until after the last ice age. So, well, that's pretty far north. It's like the Native Americans crossing the land bridge across Alaska. You know, I'm guessing the year they're talking about is it's 13,000 years ago. That's the way I understand it. I've heard, and I may be wrong about that. It's been a long time since we've spoken of it. But yeah, they fucking took this place and they built little communities and shit, and they were doing okay. But they needed resources, the wood and all this stuff. And they were free men, what we call free men in Norway, and names from former slaves that are in the north in the United States, even free men, they were people just like the way I understand the Egyptian pyramids were built. They weren't slaves. The way I've heard it, read it, seen it, and I will not fight it in a court of law because it seems like everybody's lying about everything anymore. It used to be you wrote something down, it meant something. So these were free men. They lived in the government, and they came up with a thing. It was called Alting. It's prehistoric stuff. It's judicial matters, common political interests, and legal procedures. That was the Alting. And then there was the Lagting, which was the king, and took care of political issues. 1349, the plague hit, and they ran into underpopulation. Look at that. That's what's happening here, the way some of these people talk. They're like, we're underpopulated. We can't fucking keep this goddamn ship floating without enough people to wash the dishes. And so at the same time, they're saying, don't let anybody in. The plague created unpopulation, and immigrants came because of it. Helped them out. And then there were Viking and German turmoil. You know, the Germans, the barbarians, the Vikings, the Norwegians, Scandinavians, you know, between Denmark and Sweden and Norway. And the thing is, with these immigrants coming in, they started having fights. You know, the German barbarians, you know, who's that? That's a Sumerian. That is Conan the Barbarian. His people were like, well, I could use a job. The lake's all fished out. And so they go up there and they all start fighting in the streets. So there's problems there. But then in 1375, King Valdemar, that's his name, Valdemar, Valdemar. I looked it up. Of the Denmark, dies. The king died. And the Norwegian Prince Olaf II, 1375, in the year of our Lord, he inherits the throne for 400 years. Prince Olaf II picked up the throne in 1375 that's 1775. They're ready for another big fight. Why don't we send the British against the Americans? We've been there once before. We might as well make it our own. Something like that. Who knows how it goes? And then from 15 to 1800 was called the time of the Union. Denmark and Norway, after Sweden got out. And in 1625 there was a balance of power. It's leading to Norway's independence. There's a 30-year war. There's Sweden taking Danish territories, and Norse soldiers started becoming serious fighters. And there's last Norway first to the South Pole. There's something that I had to write down up in the corner. Norway were the first people to get to the South Pole. They're people that moved. I think I got dumped off by Norwegians the same way most people think I got dumped off by fucking aliens. I don't belong here. I have to find something else. There are people looking for things all the time. And 30 years war, there's Sweden taking Danish territories, Norse soldiers, serious fighters, Napoleonic wars. Oh boy, Denmark's on this side. They went with France. Sweden's on this side. They went with Great Britain because they're all their kids anyway. I mean, heralds and all the, you look at Great Britain's fucking history, they're all been bred out by the Norwegians anyway. And then in 1814, Norway joined Sweden. Government with a king, assembly for legislature and taxation called Instorting, something like that. And then there's a separate judicial system. Sweden and plus Norway, it equals about 90 years together. Although joined independent. You know, and swear me out. Sign Sin Hande My Constitution Day. Something like that. There's 1905 here. True independence. And that's it. It's an interesting thing. Norway sat in the middle of all this shit just like Poland for the longest time. Evidently, you know, as much as Hitler wanted the Norwegians because of their blonde hair and their tall, good looks. I think Poland must have been getting in his way. But what I've heard from Metal Ghost said the second longest lasting constitution, democratic constitution in the world, it's Norway. And I do this for you, Jorn. I'm sorry I'm late. I know you're not sleeping, but we just missed the midnight showing of Norway's Constitution Day. We love you, Jorn. Everybody loves you, Jorn. Look out.